Story: Am I the a-hole for not paying my wife's tuition when she's blown thousands on clothes? My wife enrolled in an online college degree program and hasn't paid her tuition. She's a stay-at-home mom and drives Uber a few nights a week to make extra cash. Before we had kids, she was working part-time and we split bills 50-50. I told her I'd pay for food and housing after the kids came. In the years since then, I've asked her to help out with costs because we are house poor and money keeps getting tighter. The financial dynamics in our household have shifted dramatically since we became parents. What was once an equal partnership in terms of bill paying has morphed into a situation where I shoulder the majority of our financial responsibilities. While I understood and agreed to take on more of the financial burden when we decided to have children, I didn't anticipate the strain it would put on our budget and our relationship. My wife's Uber driving was supposed to be a way for her to contribute financially, while not the a-hole-lining, the flexibility needed to care for our young children. However, her approach to this income has become a point of contention between us. She views the money she earns as fun money, spending most of it on clothes and accessories for herself. Meanwhile, our household finances continue to tighten, leaving us increasingly house poor. When she decided to enroll in an online college program, I was supportive of her desire to further her education. However, the issue of tuition payment quickly became another source of tension. Despite the relatively modest cost of under $1,000, she hasn't set aside the funds to pay for it. Instead, she's continued her pattern of personal spending, recently charging $400 for dresses on her credit card. I've tried to implement budgeting tools and apps to help us manage our finances better, but my wife shows little interest in using them. It's frustrating to feel like I'm the only one concerned about our financial health, especially when I'm already covering most of our expenses, including her personal items like makeup and gas. When she approached me about paying her tuition, I felt cornered. On one hand, I want to support her educational aspirations. On the other, I'm acutely aware of our financial limitations and her seeming lack of financial responsibility. My suggestion that she drop out for a semester to save up for the next round of classes was met with tears. I then proposed she consider selling some of her recent purchases to fund her tuition, which led to her leaving the room in silence. I find myself in a difficult position. While I understand the importance of education and personal growth, I'm also grappling with the reality of our financial situation. I watch the kids when she's working or at the gym, trying to do my part in not the a-hole-lining our household. But I can't shake the feeling that the financial burden is unevenly distributed. As I reflect on this situation, I'm torn between my desire to support my wife's ambitions and my need to not the a-hole in our financial stability. I worry that my approach may have been too harsh, but I also feel that something needs to change in how we manage our finances as a couple. The silent treatment I'm now receiving adds another layer of complexity to an already tense situation. I'm left wondering if I've overstepped, if I'm being too controlling with our finances, or if I'm justified in my concerns about our financial future. Am I the a-hole or not? Comment 1. Not the a-hole, but I do not get how two people with different financial mindset can marry each other. I am saving, investing, and have some fun money. My wife is also on the same side. When we first met, I had no clue about investing, but we both discussed financial goals, savings, spending habits, and things like that. Comment 2. She chose fun items over her tuition. That's on her. I had to come up with $10,000 out of the blue when Student Finance England refused to pay for my first year of uni. Did I have new phone and clothes that year? You bet your ass I didn't. I worked my butt off and paid my uni fees myself, no loan from a bank, etc., in 3 large lump sum installments. Your wife needs to learn to spend her money wisely. She won't if she has you to fall back on and enable bad spending. Don't give in, let her find the cash. Story. Am I the a-hole for moving in with my grandparents and telling my mom I'm done supporting her? My mom had me, 16F, when she was 18. My dad was some guy she hooked up with at college, and for years, it was just the two of us. She didn't want to go back to her hometown so my grandparents could help us. She didn't even tell them about me for several years, and then used a 6-year-old me to break the news to them. From the very beginning, my relationship with my mother has been complicated. Being a teen mom, she made choices that shaped both our lives in profound ways. Her decision to keep me a secret from her parents for years, only to use me as a tool to break the news when I was 6, set a pattern that would continue throughout my childhood. I can still remember the day she coached me to use puppy dog eyes and make it good when asking my grandparents if we could stay with them. At 6 years old, I didn't understand the weight of what I was doing. I just knew that my mom needed me to do this, and I wanted to make her happy. As I grew older, the requests for lies and deception continued. I lied about my father, about where we'd lived before, about anything my mom asked me to. I followed her from relationship to relationship, often feeling like an afterthought as she prioritized her romantic partners over me. There was even a time when I, at 8 years old, had to share a room with a baby and a toddler because my mom's boyfriend only had one spare room. The one time I tried to express my need for more attention from her, she shut me down with a guilt trip about how young she was when she had me and how she needed to be put first. After that, I never tried to speak up again. 4 years ago, everything changed again when my mom met her current husband online during the COVID lockdowns. We moved in with him and his 3 kids, and they got married just 2 weeks later. I struggled with this new dynamic, especially as I watched my mom put more effort into her relationship with her stepchildren than with me. But, as always, I said nothing for her sake. The final straw came when my mom's husband's ex died, and they decided to adopt her other children. Suddenly, I was expected to not only accept these new siblings, but also to help out and bond with them. It was at this point that I realized I couldn't do it anymore. I asked my grandparents if I could live with them, and they agreed. My mom was shocked, thinking it would be temporary, but after more than a month, she's realizing that I'm serious about this change. When she tried to convince me to come back, to bond with the kids and help out around the house, I finally found the courage to say no. I told her that I don't want to be their sister, that I don't want to help her or her husband anymore. I told her that I'm done supporting her and putting her first. My words hit hard. My mom started crying, and her husband accused me of cruelty and abandoning my family. But for the first time in my life, I stood my ground. As I reflect on this situation, I can't help but feel a mix of emotions. There's guilt, of course. Years of conditioning have ensured that. But there's also a sense of relief, of finally being able to prioritize my own needs and feelings. I know my words hurt my mom, and part of me wonders if I was too harsh. But another part of me feels that this was long overdue, that I've spent my entire life catering to her needs at the expense of my own. Now, as I settle into life with my grandparents, I'm left grappling with the aftermath of my decision. Was I right to finally speak up and prioritize myself? Or have I truly abandoned my family in their time of need? Am I the a-hole or not? Comment 1. Not the a-hole. Just as your mother has put her needs first, you need to put your needs first. You have no obligation to be her Cinderella so she can pretend she's a good mother. Go live your own life. If you're not already in therapy, as your grandparents to go as your mother's neglect could impact you in the long term in ways you don't expect. Comment 2. Not the a-hole. Ask your grandparents for help getting your important documents off your mother, things like birth certificate, etc. Also, ask your grandparents to help you check your credit and identity details. You don't want your mother doing something like taking out loans or credit cards in your name. She may not be that kind of person, but it doesn't hurt to err on the side of caution. Story. Am I the a-hole for taking over a family therapy session with my rant? I'm 16 and currently in family therapy with my dad, his wife, my sister, 14, and step-siblings, 10, 9, and 7. This blended family thing is pretty new still, with my dad being remarried for 2 years. My mom died, so I only have one home. And I'll be honest, I was never excited or really into the whole blended family thing. But I know that's not my decision. The past 2 years have been a whirlwind of change, and I've been struggling to adapt. My dad's remarriage brought not just a new wife into our lives, but 3 step-siblings as well. While I understand that this is my new reality, I've found it increasingly difficult to embrace. One of the most significant changes has been our eating habits. All 3 of my step-siblings have food allergies, 2 of them severe. This has led to a complete overhaul of our dietary practices. We can no longer eat at places that were once special to us, like the local noodle bar that was a tradition for celebrating school events. Ice cream is now banned from the house. Even simple tasks like making my own sandwich are off limits due to allergy concerns. Birthdays, once a time for personal celebration and choice, have also been affected. My sister and I can no longer choose our favorite restaurants or have our preferred dishes at home. Instead, we're limited to places that accommodate our step-siblings' allergies, often ending up at their favorite spots. Throughout all of this, my dad has consistently emphasized how glad we all are to make these changes, how family is worth it. But the truth is, I've never felt that way. I've been silently resenting these changes, feeling like my preferences and traditions are being erased. When my dad's wife noticed that my sister and I weren't engaging with the family as she expected, and that my sister had excluded our step-siblings from some photos in her room, they decided we needed family therapy. For 2 months, we've been attending these sessions, with my dad continually emphasizing how happy we all are with our blended family. But last week, when the therapist directly asked me if I was truly okay with all the changes, something in me snapped. I unleashed all the frustration and resentment I'd been bottling up. I told them how much I hated the changes, how unfair it felt. I expressed that I never wanted my step-siblings to celebrate my birthday more than I wanted my favorite foods. I ranted about how these decisions were made for me, without considering my feelings or preferences. I explained that celebrating with my step-siblings isn't as important to me as enjoying time with the people I truly care about and the foods I love. My outburst took up the entire session, leaving my dad furious and his wife upset, partly because her kids overheard, and partly because she finally realized I never wanted this blended family setup. As I reflect on what happened, I'm torn. On one hand, I feel relieved to have finally expressed my true feelings. On the other, I'm worried about the fallout. I can see how my words might have hurt my step-siblings, who didn't ask for this situation any more than I did. I'm left wondering if I went too far. Was it wrong of me to be so brutally honest? Should I have continued to keep my feelings to myself for the sake of family harmony? Or was this outburst necessary for everyone to understand my perspective? Am I the a-hole or not? Comment 1. Kiddo, you're here asking if you were wrong to use the therapy you were shoved into. No, sweetheart, you're not wrong for that, nor for any of your feelings around your stepfamily. It was not your choice for them to join your family, and had your father not pushed this, you likely would not have been as against this. It's not your fault you weren't considered in this life-changing choice. I do not believe you can tell your dad not to date, marry, or whatever, but your dad, likewise, cannot demand that you be okay with choices made without you. Not the a-hole, and your dad needs to back off unless he wants to lose you and your sister. Comment 2. Not the a-hole, not one bit. You've been through a lot, and blending a family is tough. Put losing your mom and severe food allergies, and it's even harder. It's completely understandable to feel the way you do. I think the family therapy is the right thing to do if everyone engages, which it sounds like you are. Maybe you can ask your dad to get you some individual therapy. He's right that family makes sacrifices, but it sounds like he only expected you and your sister to make them so far. Again, you're not the a-hole. I hope the family therapy starts to help the situation.